Jinwoo's room was small and plain. A bed, a desk, a cabinet. It was like every other cadet's room. But his was very neat. Everything had its place. The only personal thing was a single flat image on the wall. It showed mountains with old temples, green and misty. He placed his bag on the desk. He opened the sealed metal case again under the clean white light. He took out each item one by one. He inspected them for damage. The datapad and hand terminal were fine. They were just academy gear. The hygiene kit was untouched. He set those aside. Then he took out the folded flag. He unfolded it carefully. The red and blue circle, the taegyuk, was bright against the white field. He smoothed the fabric with his palm and refolded it with sharp, precise corners. He put it back. Next was the notebook. The black cover was scuffed from hitting the floor. He opened it. The pages were filled with handwritten notes in Korean. The writing was clean and orderly. The notes were not for academy classes. They were personal studies. Diagrams of bodies, human and alien. Notes on muscle groups. Arrows pointing to joints. Small notes in the margins about angles of force and points of pressure. The Groks had seen only strange symbols. They had not seen the careful research behind them. Jinwoo closed the book and placed it back with respect. Last, he lifted out the photograph. It was the worst part. The corner was bent from where Kaito had held it. There was a faint smudge from a Grok's finger. But the faces were still clear. His mother and father smiled. His younger sister made a peace sign. And his grandfather stood straight in the back, his hands on Jinwoo's boyhood shoulders. His grandfather's eyes were the same as Jinwoo's. Dark, steady, and seeing everything. Jinwoo looked at his grandfather's face for a long time. He remembered the old man's voice. The scariest man in the room is not the one who shouts, Jinwoo. It is the one who is calm. The one who has prepared. The one who knows exactly what he will do. He remembered the first time his grandfather placed the twin polymer batons, the Sangjuliang, in his small hands. These are not for showing off. They are tools for understanding. Understanding your own body. Understanding balance. Understanding an opponent's weakness. The lessons were not about fighting. They were about control. About ending a threat with the least possible force. About protecting what mattered. He placed the photograph face up in the case. He would fix the bend later. Finally, he took out the two batons. He held one in each hand. The polymer was cool and smooth. Their weight was perfect. He practiced a simple, slow form right there in the small space of his room. His movements were fluid. A turn, a block, a strike that stopped a hair's breadth from the wall. He was not angry. He was checking his own balance, checking his own focus. The anger was a cold stone in his stomach, but he did not let it move his hands. He let it become part of his focus. A soft chime came from his door. It was Sumi. He put the batons away and sealed the case. "Come in." Sumi entered. She looked worried. She saw the open bag and the case on his desk. "You are really not going to report it? I told you. It would not help," Jinwoo said, sitting on his bed. "So what? You just forget it?" Sumi sat at his desk chair. "They will think you are weak. They will do it again. They will not think anything for long," Jinwoo said. His voice was quiet. Sumi studied his face. She saw no rage, no fear. She saw planning. It scared her a little. "Jinwoo, what are you going to do? You cannot fight 5 Groks. They are twice your mass. Their skin is like leather. It is a stupid idea." "I am not going to fight them," Jinwoo said. "Then what?" "I am going to correct them," he said. "There is a difference." He stood up and went to his terminal. He tapped the screen. Public records came up. The Academy had open files on basic physiology of all member species. It was for medical and tactical training. He pulled up the Groks file. Sumi came to look over his shoulder. "What are you doing?" "Understanding," he said. The diagram on the screen showed a Grok's body. Its strengths were highlighted. Dense muscle, thick dermal layer, strong bones. Jinwoo did not care about the strengths. He tapped a command. The view changed to a neurological and muscular map. He zoomed in on the joints, the knees, the elbows, the shoulders. He studied the connections. Their hide is thick, he murmured mostly to himself. But the joints are protected only by a flexible sheath. Behind the knee, here. He pointed to a cluster of neural nodes. A precise strike here would disrupt motor control. He zoomed in on the head. The temple area is not as armored. The skull is thick, but the nerve cluster near the auditory canal is sensitive to percussive shock. Sumi stared at him. You are studying how to hurt them. I am studying how to stop them, he corrected her. The fastest way, with the least lasting damage. He looked at her. They are bullies. They are not soldiers in a war. They do not need to be broken. They need to be educated. And you are the teacher? Sumi asked, her arms crossed. They chose the lesson, Jinwoo said. He closed the file. They touched something that was not theirs. They broke a piece. Now they face a consequence. This is dangerous, Jinwoo. It is more dangerous to do nothing, he said. If they are not stopped, they will hurt someone weaker next time. Someone who cannot do this. He gestured to the screen. I can. Therefore, I should. He stood up. I need to train. The academy gym has a biometric dummy. It can be set to Grok's physiology. People will see you, Sumi said. Let them see, Jinwoo said. Let them see a human training. There is no crime in that. He picked up his bag again. He put the metal case inside. He was not leaving it alone anymore. Sumi watched him go. She felt a mix of fear and pride. Her friend was not running away. He was walking toward the problem with clear eyes. But she knew the Groks would not see it coming. They would think it was just a human practicing with sticks. They would be very, very wrong. The lesson was already being written. Not in the report she wanted to file, but in Jinwoo's mind, in his careful research, and in the memory of his grandfather's calm, steady hands. The next move would not be an attack. It would be a response. And Jinwoo was making sure he was ready to give it. The main training gym was a vast, echoing space. The air hummed with energy. In one corner, cadets fired low-powered energy bolts at moving targets. In another, pairs grappled in holographic sumo rings. The sounds were a mix of thuds, whirs, and shouted commands. Jinwoo walked to a quieter section. It was for physical conditioning. There were weight machines and running belts. Against the wall stood 3 advanced training dummies. They were tall pillars of a soft, responsive polymer. A terminal next to them controlled their settings. He approached the terminal. He tapped the screen. A menu of species physiology settings appeared. He scrolled past human, Sarati, and Tarkin. He selected Groks. The screen asked for specificity. He chose male, adult, standard density. The training dummy made a soft whirring sound. The surface seemed to ripple. When it settled, it looked the same. But the internal resistance, the simulated muscle and high density had changed. It was now programmed to mimic the body of a Groks. Jinwoo took off his standard-issue academy jacket. He wore a simple gray shirt underneath. He opened his bag and took out the 2 polymer batons. He held them loosely at his sides. He faced the dummy. He did not attack immediately. He first moved around it. He watched the light play on its surface. He breathed slowly and evenly. He was not just preparing his body. He was preparing his mind. He pictured Kaido. He pictured Bork. He pushed the cold anger down and focused on the task. The task was not violence. It was application. The application of knowledge. He began. The first strike was a testing tap against the dummy's shoulder. A dull thump echoed. He felt the feedback through the baton. It was firm, solid. He nodded. He shifted his stance. The next movement was a swift, low arc. The baton struck precisely behind the dummy's knee joint. A green light flickered on the dummy's chest. A simulated motor disruption registered on the terminal screen. A successful strike to a neural cluster. He moved faster now. It was not a wild fight. It was a drill. Strike to the elbow joint. Strike to the side of the neck, just below the ear. A spinning motion to simulate avoiding a grab. followed by a sharp jab to the lower ribs. Each impact was crisp. Each was aimed at the points he had studied. The points where Grok's biology had a weakness. He did not roar. He did not grunt. The only sounds were the smooth shuffle of his feet on the mat, his controlled breath, and the rhythmic thwack of polymer on the training dummy. He did not see the small crowd that had begun to gather. A few cadets from other species had stopped their own training. They watched the human with the simple sticks. They saw the precision. They saw the green lights flashing on the dummy's console, each one marking a disabling strike. A Serati cadet, with fine feather-like hair and large, observant eyes, watched closely. Her name was Arya. She had seen the incident in the mess hall from a distance. She had felt a twist of disgust when Kaito stole the bag. She was now watching the human's silent response. This was not showmanship. This was calculation. She was impressed. After 20 minutes, Jinwoo stopped. He was sweating lightly. His breathing was a bit faster, but still controlled. He bowed slightly to the dummy, a habit from his old training. He collected his batons and walked to the terminal to reset it. That was when Arya approached him. "Your form is very efficient," she said. Her voice was melodic. Jinwoo turned. He saw the Serati. He knew they were a diplomatic species, known for their keen observation. "Thank you," he said. He wiped his batons with a cloth and put them in his bag. "You are studying Grok's weaknesses," Arya stated. It was not an accusation. "I am studying how to defend myself," Jinwoo corrected gently. "From the ones who took your bag," Arya said. Jinwoo looked at her. He said nothing. That was answer enough. "I saw what they did," Arya continued. "It was dishonorable. You would be within your rights to report them to Commander Vorsk." "Many have said that," Jinwoo replied. He slung his bag over his shoulder. "But you will not." "No." Arya tilted her head. "May I ask why?" "The commander is strict. He would punish them." Jinwoo thought about his grandfather's photo. The bent corner. A punishment from above teaches them to avoid authority. It does not teach them to respect others. He looked toward the gym entrance, as if he could see the Groks lounging somewhere. They need to learn that some lines, when crossed, have an immediate answer. Not a report. An answer. Arya understood. Her people valued cause and effect. "You intend to provide that answer." "If they ask for it again," Jinwoo said. "I think they will." "They are planning something," Arya said, lowering her voice. "I hear them talk. They are bored. They speak of an initiation for new cadets. They mean to ambush someone in the lower maintenance corridors tonight after last bell. The area has no security cameras." Yinvoesi's methers. This was new information. Important information. "Thank you for telling me." "I can be there," Arya offered. "I can be a witness. I can activate an emergency alert the moment it starts." Jinwoo considered this. A witness was good. An emergency alert meant medical help would come fast. That was important. He did not want to cause permanent harm. He just wanted to make a point they would never forget. "That would be a kindness," Jinwoo said, nodding. "Thank you, Arya." "You are not like the other humans here," she observed. "They are loud. They try to be friends with everyone. You are quiet." "My grandfather taught me that a still pond reflects the truth," Jinwoo said. "Noise only makes mud." He gave her a slight, respectful bow of his head. Then he left the gym, his bag secure on his back. His training was done. The knowledge was in his mind and in his muscles. The trap, he now knew, was already being set by Kaito. Jinwoo just had to decide when to walk into it. And he had. Sumi was waiting for him outside his room. "You have been training all afternoon. Everyone is talking about it." "Good," Jinwoo said simply. He opened his door. "Good?" "Jinwoo. Now they know you are preparing for a fight." "They know I am preparing," he said, entering his room. Sumi followed. "They do not know what I am preparing for. Let them think it is just anger. Let them underestimate." He opened his bag and took out his hand terminal. He began to check the station's public blueprint files. He looked for the lower maintenance corridors. What are you doing now? Sumi asked, peering at the screen. Choosing the classroom, Jinwoo said. His finger traced a path on the map. It was a long, straight corridor. Pipes on the walls. Good lighting. 2 exits. Perfect place for an ambush. Also a perfect place for a lesson. He looked up at Sumi. His face was calm, but his eyes were like dark stones. They want to play a game. So tonight, after last bell, I will go for a walk. I will take my bag. Sumi's blood went cold. Jinwoo, no. That is exactly what they want. Yes, he said, closing the terminal. It is. But I am not the one walking into a trap, Sumi. They are. The station's day cycle began to dim. The main lights in the corridors softened to a gentle blue, signaling evening. The academy grew quieter. Cadets returned to their rooms to study or rest. The loud groups in the common areas broke up. In a lounge near the Grok's living section, Kaido and his friends were not resting. They were excited. The boredom of the day had finally cracked. They had a plan. The human with the bag, Bork said, his voice a low rumble. He has been training all day. He thinks he is tough now. Kaido laughed. It was a nasty sound. I saw him, hitting a dummy. With sticks. He shook his big head. He is trying to make himself feel better after we embarrassed him. We need to finish the lesson. Show him his place. Another Grox named Gron leaned forward. The lower maintenance corridor. Sector G12. No cameras. No one goes there after last bell. It is perfect. How do we get him there? Asked the fourth, named Drog. Kaido smiled, showing thick teeth. We do not get him. He will come himself. He is proud now. He will want to prove he is not afraid. We just have to let him see us heading that way. He will follow. Humans are curious. And stupid. The fifth Grox, the youngest, named Cole, shifted on his feet. What if he tells a teacher? And say what? Kaido sneered. That he followed us? That would make him a snitch. No one likes a snitch. He will not tell. He will come alone. He will want to be brave. The plan was simple. It was ugly. They would wait in the shadows of the long corridor. They would let Jinwoo walk into the middle. Then they would step out. They would take the bag again. This time they would not just look. They would break the things inside. They would scare him. Maybe push him around a little. Make him understand that humans were at the bottom here. They did not think about the careful strikes on the training dummy. They saw only sticks. They did not think about the calm in Jinwoo's eyes. They saw only silence they mistook for fear. Across the station, Jinwoo was also making final preparations. He sat on his bed. His bag was beside him, open. He checked the contents one more time. The datapad, the terminal, the flag neatly folded, the notebook, the photograph, its bent corner carefully pressed flat, the metal case with the batons inside. He was not preparing weapons. He was preparing his mind. He thought of the corridor. Arya had confirmed the location. Sector G12. She would be at the north emergency panel, hidden around a corner. Sumi had insisted on coming too. She would be at the south entrance, farther back, with her hand terminal recording. They were not there to fight. They were there to witness and to call for help if it was needed. He was grateful for them. He stood up and did some slow stretches. He rotated his shoulders. He loosened his wrists. He was not full of adrenaline. He felt clear, calm. This was not an emotion. It was a task. A job that needed to be done. There was a soft chime at his door. It was Sumi. She came in, her face tight with worry. It's almost time, she said. Are you sure about this? I am sure, Jinwoo said. He put on his academy jacket. He zipped it up. I mapped the quickest route for the Medrones from the infirmary, she said, showing him her screen. When I call them, they can be there in 90 seconds. Good, Jinwoo said. That is important. Thank you, Sumi. Just don't let them hurt you, she said, her voice small. They will try, he said. But they are not fighting me. They are fighting an idea. The idea that they can do whatever they want. I am just going to show them that idea is wrong. He picked up his bag. He slung it over one shoulder. He looked ordinary, a cadet heading out for the evening. Together, they left his room and walked into the dim blue light of the corridor. They did not speak. They walked to a junction where they would split up. Sumi would take a longer, roundabout way to the south entrance. Jinwoo would walk a more direct path. "Be careful," Sumi whispered. Jinwoo gave a single, slow nod. Then he turned and walked away, his steps even and soundless on the deck plating. He moved through the quieter sections of the station. The maintenance sector was less polished. The walls were exposed gray metal. Conduits and pipes ran along the ceilings. The lights here were fewer and more stark. It was a place for work, not for people. He could feel the emptiness. The only sound was the distant hum of the station's engines and the sigh of air recyclers. He walked without rushing. He let himself be seen. He was the bait walking calmly into the trap. From a cross corridor up ahead, he saw a shadow move. A large, familiar shape ducked out of sight. Kaido. They were here. They were waiting. Jinwoo did not change his pace. He did not look nervous. He kept his bag on his shoulder. He entered the long, straight stretch of Sector G12. It was exactly as he had seen on the map. Pipes on the walls. Good, harsh lighting from above. A long way to either exit. He was exactly in the middle when the shadows at both ends of the corridor moved. From behind him, two Groks stepped out, blocking the way he had come. Bork and Gron. They crossed their thick arms. From in front of him, three more figures emerged from behind a large pipe manifold. Kaido, Drog, and Kul. They spread out, blocking the way forward. Jinwoo was in the center, 5 against 1. He stopped walking. He slowly took his bag off his shoulder. He placed it gently on the deck floor against the wall. He made sure it was secure. Kaido took a step forward, a wide grin on his face. "Look, the human came for more training. Did you bring your little sticks?" Jinwoo turned to face him fully. He stood straight, his hands loose at his sides. He said nothing. He just waited. The silence seemed to annoy Kaido. "Hand over the bag. Maybe we won't mess up your face too bad." Jinwoo's voice was quiet in the vast space. "You already touched it. Now you face me." Kaido's grin vanished. The human was not begging. He was not running. He was just standing there, accepting the fight. It was not what Kaido wanted. He wanted fear. This was different. This was a challenge. A flicker of doubt passed through Kaido's mind. But it was too late. His friends were watching. He had to prove he was still the leader. He roared, a loud, angry sound meant to frighten, and charged. The roar echoed in the metal corridor. Kaido charged, a mountain of angry muscle and thick hide. He swung a massive fist, aiming to knock Jinwoo down with one blow. Jinwoo did not move until the last second. He was calm. He saw the attack like a slow motion in his mind. He stepped to the side, not back. His left foot slid on the deck. He turned his body. Kaido's fist passed through the air where Jinwoo's head had been. Jinwoo's right hand shot out. It was not a fist. It was a flat, rigid hand. It struck Kaido's extended arm right on the inside of the elbow joint. There was a sharp, wet crack of connective tissue. It was not a broken bone. It was a hyperextended joint. Kaido bellowed in surprise and pain. His charge turned into a stumble. He clutched his arm, his face twisted. He was not out of the fight, but his main weapon was gone. The other Groks froze for a second. They had expected their leader to crush the human easily. This was wrong. Bork recovered first. He rushed from the left. He was smarter. He tried to grab Jinwoo, to use his weight to pin him. Jinwoo dropped lower, his balance perfect. As Bork's arms closed, Jinwoo drove his shoulder into Bork's stomach. It was not to hurt him. It was to get close. Now inside Bork's reach, Jinwoo's hands became a blur of precise strikes. The edge of his hand to the side of Bork's knee. A knuckle strike to a nerve cluster on the hip. Bork gasped. His leg buckled. He fell to one knee, his body locking up in a painful muscle spasm. 2 down in less than 10 seconds. Not knocked out, just broken down. Gron and Drog came together from the right. They were angry now, not laughing. They swung heavy, clumsy punches. Jinwoo flowed between them. He was like water, a duck under a swing, a shift of weight to avoid a grab. He focused on Gran first. He parried a punch with his forearm, redirecting the force. His other hand formed a spearfinger strike. It jabbed hard into the soft area just below Gran's ribcage, where the diaphragm was. Gran's breath exploded out of him in a pained wheeze. He doubled over, clutching his middle, unable to breathe properly. Drog was alone now. He swung a wild backhand. Jinwoo caught the swinging arm with both hands. He did not try to stop it. He went with its motion, adding his own force. He pulled Drog forward while sticking out his foot. It was a simple, classic trip. Drog's own momentum threw him. He crashed face-first into the hard deck with a heavy thud. The impact stunned him. The youngest Cole had hung back. He watched his 4 friends fall. One clutching a limp arm. One kneeling, leg paralyzed. One gasping for air on his knees. One dazed on the floor. Fear filled his yellow eyes. This was not a fight. It was a dissection. Cole turned to run. Jinwoo did not let him. He needed them all to learn the same lesson. He took 2 quick steps and kicked the back of Cole's knee, the same spot he had hit on Bork. Cole's leg collapsed. He fell forward, catching himself on his hands. Jinwoo stood over him. He did not strike again. He just looked down. "Stay," he said, his voice quiet but firm. Cole stayed on the ground, trembling. Kaido had gotten up, cradling his bad arm. Fury and pain burned in his eyes. He saw Jinwoo standing over Cole. He let out another roar and charged again, this time leading with his good shoulder, aiming to tackle. This was the final mistake. Jinwoo saw the charge. He settled into a deep-rooted stance. At the last moment he sidestepped again. But this time, as Kaido blundered past, Jinwoo's arm came down like a hammer on the back of Kaido's neck, right where the skull met the spine. It was a controlled, chopping blow. Not enough to kill, just enough to overload the nerves. Kaido's charge turned into a crash. He plowed into the wall next to Jinwoo's bag and slid down it. He did not get up. He lay there, eyes open but unfocused, his body twitching, temporarily paralyzed. Silence. The whole fight had lasted maybe 90 seconds. The only sounds now were the pained groans and gasps of the 5 Groks. None of them were unconscious, but none of them could stand up and fight. They had broken joints, pinched nerves, and shocked systems. Jinwoo stood in the center of them. He was breathing a little harder, but he was not hurt. He did not look triumphant. He looked finished. The job was done. He walked calmly to his bag. He picked it up and slung it over his shoulder. He looked at the Groks on the ground. He spoke, his voice clear in the quiet corridor. "You touched what you did not understand," he said. "Now you understand." From the north entrance, Arya stepped into view. Her large eyes were wide. She had seen it all. She gave Jinwoo a slow, respectful nod. Then she reached for the bright red emergency panel on the wall and hit it. A loud, blaring alarm ripped through the silence. Blue lights began to flash at each end of the corridor. From the south, Sumi came running in. She held her terminal, its recording light off now. She looked at the scene. 5 huge aliens in various states of distress, and Jinwoo standing calmly among them, untouched. Her mouth was open. "Medrones are on the way," she yelled over the alarm. Jinwoo nodded. He walked toward her, stepping carefully around the groaning Cole. He met Sumi and Arya in the middle. You... Sumi could not find the words. "Are you injured?" Arya asked, her melodic voice full of wonder. "No," Jinwoo said. He looked back once more. The first white, oblong Medrones zipped into the corridor from a service hatch. They began scanning the Groks, their mechanical voices stating urgent diagnoses. Non-lethal neural trauma, joint dislocation, respiratory distress. The drones shot them with stabilizers and carefully loaded them onto floating stretchers. One by one, the 5 bullies were lifted and whisked away toward the medical bay. To the intensive care unit. The alarm kept flashing. Soon, heavier footsteps echoed. Commander Vorsk, the stern Tarkin instructor, arrived with 2 security officers. He took in the scene. The empty stretchers leaving, the 2 cadets, and Jinwoo standing there, his bag on his back. Vorsk's face was hard. Report. Now. Commander Vorsk stood like a steel column in the flashing blue light. His eyes, sharp and yellow, moved from the empty space where the groks had fallen to Jinwoo. He looked at Sumi and Arya. The alarm was shut off, leaving a ringing silence. Report, Vorsk repeated, his voice like stones grinding. Jinwoo stepped forward. He stood straight, his hands at his sides. Sir, Cadet Jinwoo Park. The 5 groks cadets ambushed me in this corridor. They blocked both exits. They demanded I hand over my personal bag. When I refused, Cadet Kaito charged me. I defended myself. Vorsk's eyes narrowed. He looked at the human. No bruises, no torn uniform, just calm breathing. Then he looked at the 2 witnesses. Is this true? He asked Sumi. Yes, Commander, Sumi said, her voice firm. She held up her hand terminal. I have a recording of the start of the incident. It shows them blocking the exits and issuing the threat. I stopped recording when Cadet Kaito charged, as per Academy privacy rules during a physical altercation. Vorsk turned to Arya. You, Sarati, what did you see? Arya bowed her head slightly. I saw the same, Commander. I positioned myself at the emergency panel as a precaution. I witnessed the entire engagement. Cadet Park acted only after being charged. His defense was precise. He ended the threat with no unnecessary violence. Vorsk made a low sound in his throat. He looked back at Jinwoo. 5 groks. In the ICU. And you have no scratch. Explain your methods, Cadet. My methods were target-specific neutralization, sir, Jinwoo said. I used knowledge of grok's physiology to disable motor functions and cause temporary neuromuscular incapacitation. The intent was to end the fight quickly and with minimal lasting harm. You studied their weaknesses, Vorsk stated. I studied available tactical medical data, sir, as is permitted, to better understand fellow cadets and potential threats. A faint glint of something, maybe approval, flashed in Vorsk's hard eyes. It was gone quickly. Your bag. Why was it a target? Jinwoo did not hesitate. He took off his bag. He opened it and took out the metal case. He opened it. He showed the commander the photograph, the folded flag, the notebook, the batons. These are personal items from my home, sir. Cadet Kaito and his group took this bag from me in the mess hall earlier today. They opened this case. They handled these things without respect. I believe they intended to do so again with more damage. Vorsk looked at the photograph. The family. The old man. He looked at the simple batons. He understood. This was not about theft. It was about humiliation. It was about power. You did not report the first incident, Vorsk said. No, sir. Why? Jinwoo met his gaze. A formal warning would not have taught them to respect others. It would have only taught them to avoid you, sir. They needed a different lesson. And you gave it, Vorsk said. It was not a question. I stopped their attack, sir. The medical result was not my primary goal. It was a consequence of their physiology and their aggression. Vorsk was silent for a long moment. He looked at the security officers. Secure the recordings from both witnesses. Get the preliminary medical reports from the ICU. I will review everything. He turned back to Jinwoo. You will come to my office. Now, you too, he said to Sumi and Arya. Return to your quarters. You will be called if needed. Sumi looked worried. Arya gave Jinwoo another respectful nod. They both turned and left. Jinwoo followed Commander Vorsk through the quiet halls. They did not speak. They entered the command wing, all clean lines and bright light. Vorsk's office was sparse. A desk, a few chairs, a large window looking out at the stars. Sit, Vorsk said, going behind his desk. Jinwoo sat. He placed his bag on the floor beside him. Vorsk called up files on his desk screen. He read the incoming medical reports. His face was unreadable. After a few minutes, he leaned back. The medical drones confirm your story. The injuries are exactly as you describe. hyperextended joints, temporary nerve paralysis, traumatic muscle spasms from precise strikes. One has a bruised diaphragm. All are in significant pain. All will recover fully in a few days. No permanent damage. He looked at Jinwoo. It is a medical marvel. Or a tactical one. Jinwoo said nothing. You used no academy-taught combat, Vorsk observed. This was something else. It is a discipline from my home, sir. It is about control, not aggression. Vorsk nodded slowly. I have seen humans fight. They are often emotional. Loud. You are not. My grandfather taught me that emotion is a fuel, sir. It must be controlled, or it will control you. Your grandfather was a wise man, Vorsk said. He steepled his fingers. The inquiry will formally clear you. The evidence is clear. You were ambushed. You defended yourself with remarkable restraint. The Groks will be disciplined upon their release, possibly expelled. Jinwoo absorbed this. He felt no joy. You do not seem satisfied, Vorsk noted. Expulsion is not the lesson I wanted them to learn, sir, Jinwoo said quietly. Vorsk almost smiled. It was a thin, hard thing. No, the lesson you taught them is in the ICU. They will remember that pain. They will remember the human who gave it to them without raising his voice. That is a deeper lesson than any expulsion. He stood up. You are dismissed, Cadet Park. Return to your duties. And keep your bag close. Jinwoo stood. He picked up his bag. He bowed slightly. Thank you, sir. As he left the office, the weight of the night began to settle on him. It was not the weight of guilt. It was the weight of a finished task. He walked back to his room. The station was deep into the night cycle now. He saw no one. In his room, he placed his bag on the desk. He took out the metal case. He looked at his grandfather's face in the photograph. The stern, kind eyes. I protected it, he said softly to the picture. Then he put everything away, sealed the case, and went to bed. He slept without dreams. The news moved through the academy like a current. It did not boom from the speakers. It was not in official bulletins. It was whispered in the mess hall. It was muttered in the training gym. It was passed between cadets of different species in quiet, respectful tones. 5 Groks thugs. 1 human cadet. The ICU. The details were fuzzy, but the result was clear. The big, bullying Groks had picked a fight with the wrong human. And they had lost. Not just lost. They had been taken apart with a quiet, terrifying efficiency. Jinwoo Park walked the halls the next morning. He wore the same uniform. He carried the same dark blue bag. But everything was different. Before, other cadets looked through him. Now they looked at him. Their glances were quick, cautious. He saw new expressions. Not fear exactly. It was wariness. It was a sudden understanding that the small, quiet human was not simple. He was deep, and depth could be dangerous. He went to the mess hall for breakfast. The usual noise dropped a little when he entered. He got his tea and sat at his usual table, alone. He did not look around. He just drank his tea and reviewed notes on his tablet. Sumi joined him a few minutes later. She had a bright, proud look in her eyes. Have you heard? They are talking about nothing else. The medics are saying the strikes were surgical. Jinwoo nodded slightly. I heard. Are you okay? She asked, her voice dropping. I am fine, he said. And he was. The cold stone in his stomach was gone. The job was done. A few tables away, a group of smaller reptilian cadets, who often got pushed around, kept looking at Jinwoo. One of them finally gathered courage. He walked over, his scales shifting color with nerves. Excuse me, the reptilian cadet said. Is it true? What they say? Jinwoo looked up. It depends on what they say. That you defended your honor. Against 5. I defended my property. And myself, Jinwoo corrected gently. The cadet bowed his head, a gesture of great respect among his people. Thank you, he said softly. They pushed me last week. They have not today. He hurried back to his friends. Sumi watched him go. You have fans. Jinwoo shook his head. I do not want fans. I wanted quiet. He got his quiet, but it was a different kind. It was a quiet full of space. When he walked to his engineering lecture, the crowded hallway seemed to part for him. No one bumped his bag. In the engineering lab, the instructor and no-nonsense Tarkin female called him to the front. She needed help demonstrating a power coupler alignment. As he worked, she said in a low voice only he could hear, "Clean work in G12, Cadet. Unorthodox, but clean." She gave him a single, approving nod. The lesson was over. The message was received. In the afternoon, he went to the gym. He needed to move, to clear his head. He went to the training dummy. He did not select Grok's physiology. He selected human. He began a slow, flowing series of movements with his batons. It was not combat. It was meditation in motion. He was aware of others watching. But they did not crowd him. They watched from a distance. They saw the control, the balance, the absolute precision. They understood now that those were not just sticks. They were tools of a deep discipline. Arya, the Sarati, approached when he finished. She offered him a clean towel. "The inquiry is closed," she said. "Commander Vorsk made an announcement to the senior staff. You acted within all regulations. The Groks are on disciplinary probation. They will be assigned cleaning duties for the rest of the term." Jinwoo wiped his face. "They are out of the ICU? They were released this morning," Arya said. "They are walking, but they are slow, and they are very quiet." She tilted her head. "You changed the atmosphere here. It is not just fear. It is respect. That is harder to earn." "I did not mean to change anything," Jinwoo said. "I just wanted them to leave me and my things alone." "Sometimes," Arya said wisely, "to get what you want, you must change the world around you. A little bit." Later, as Jinwoo walked back to his room, he saw them, Kaido and Bork. They were at the far end of a long corridor, wearing plain gray probationary uniforms. They were using sonic cleaners on the wall panels. They saw him. Jinwoo kept walking, his pace unchanged. He did not look away. He did not glare. He just looked at them as he would look at a pipe or a door. Kaido's eyes met his. The Groks' yellow eyes were not full of hate anymore. They were full of something else. Confusion, pain, and a dawning, awful understanding. He saw the human who had dismantled him without anger. He saw the bag on the human's shoulder. He looked away quickly, focusing hard on his cleaning. Bork did not look up at all. They had learned. They had touched something they did not understand, and they had been broken by that misunderstanding. Now they understood. That evening, Jinwoo sat at his desk. He took out his grandfather's photograph. The bent corner was smooth now. He had fixed it. He looked at his grandfather's face. "It is done," he said to the picture. "They will not touch it again." He put the photo back in the case. He sealed it. He put it in his bag. He had come to the academy to learn. He had learned engineering, tactics, and alien cultures. And he had taught a lesson, too. A lesson about respect. About the quiet depth of things. About the consequence of touching what is not yours. The title of his story was now a quiet legend in the halls. A warning passed from cadet to cadet. In any language. Don't touch the human's bag. Jinwoo zipped his bag closed. He set it by the door, ready for tomorrow. He turned off the light and went to sleep. Outside his door, the station hummed peacefully. For the first time, it felt truly quiet. The mess hall of the Interstellar Coalition Academy was always loud. It was a huge room with high ceilings. View screens showed starscapes and nebulas on the walls. The air smelled of strange foods from a dozen different worlds. Cadets of all shapes and sizes talked and argued. There were tall, slender beings with gray skin. There were bulky creatures with thick hides. Among them, a few humans sat, looking small and ordinary. Jinwoo Park preferred the quiet corners. He found a table near a viewport. Outside, the lights of docking ships moved like slow fireflies. He drank tea from a small metal cup. He scrolled through tactical diagrams on his tablet. His movements were calm and precise. His dark blue cadet bag was under the table, resting against his feet. It was a simple bag, made of tough fabric. It held his things. Sumi Lee walked over with her tray. She was his friend from Earth, from a city not far from his own. She had a clever face and sharp eyes. "You are always studying, Jinwoo?" she said, sitting down. "The exam is not for 3 days. Preparation is never wasted," Jinwoo said. His voice was quiet but clear. He offered her a small cookie from a packet. It was from home, sweet and red bean flavored. Sumi took it with a smile. She started talking about a problem in the network security simulation. Her console work was giving her errors. Jinwoo listened. He set his tablet down to help her think. For a moment, his attention was fully on his friend and the puzzle. This was the moment they were waiting for. A group of 5 cadets entered the mess hall. Everyone knew them. They were groks. They were big, with tough, pebbled skin the color of dried clay. Their shoulders were wide, and their arms were thick. They walked like they owned the floor. Smaller cadets moved out of their way quickly. Their leader was named Kaido. He was the biggest. He had a deep scar over one of his yellow eyes. He liked to remind everyone that groks were known as strong warriors. He saw humans as soft, new, and weak. He enjoyed testing that idea. Kaido's eyes scanned the room. They landed on Jinwoo, who was looking at Sumi's tablet screen. Then they dropped to the dark blue bag under the table. A mean smile spread on Kaido's face. He nudged his closest friend, a grox named Bork. He pointed with his chin. The group moved through the tables like a slow tide. They did not hurry. They enjoyed the space others gave them. They reached Jinwoo's table. Jinwoo and Sumi were still talking. They did not look up. Kaido bent down. His large hand closed around the strap of the bag. In one smooth motion, he pulled it from under the table. The sound made Jinwoo turn his head. "Hey!" Sumi said, standing up. "That's his." Jinwoo said nothing. He just watched. His face showed no expression. Kaido laughed. It was a rough, grating sound. "Relax, little humans. We just want to see what treasures you carry." He held the bag up high. The other 4 groks formed a rough circle around him, blocking Jinwoo and Sumi. Kaido dumped the bag's contents onto an empty table next to them. Things clattered and spilled. A standard-issue datapad, a hand terminal, a hygiene kit, a notebook with a plain black cover, and a sealed metal case about the size of a large book. "What is this junk?" Bork said, poking the datapad. Kaido picked up the metal case. It was smooth, with no latch or button. "How does it open?" he growled, looking at Jinwoo. "It does not open for you," Jinwoo said. His voice was still quiet, but it carried. Kaido snorted. He gripped the case with both hands and twisted. His muscles bulged. For a second, nothing happened. Then, with a sharp click, the seal broke. The lid popped open. The groks all leaned in to look. Their faces fell into looks of confusion and then mockery. Inside, there was no advanced tech. No secret weapon. There was a faded photograph of a family in front of a modern apartment building. A small, neatly folded fabric flag with a red and blue circle in the center. A handwritten notebook filled with elegant, looping script they could not read. And 2 polished, dark cylinders, each about the length of a forearm, connected by a short chain. "What are these?" "Sticks." Bork grabbed one of the cylinders. It was heavier than it looked. He swung it in the air like a club. "They are practice tools," Jinwoo said. He had not moved from his seat. Kaido picked up the photograph. The family smiled up at him. A man, a woman, a younger Jinwoo, and an elderly man with a stern but kind face. "Primitives," Kaido sneered. He held the photo between his thick fingers and pretended to think about tearing it. He saw Jinwoo's eyes focus on the picture. For the first time, he saw a flicker in the human's calm. He dropped the photo back into the case. It landed face down. "This is boring. Human relics." He swept his arm across the table, pushing everything back into a messy pile. The notebook fell to the floor. One of the polished cylinders rolled and clattered on the ground. He then grabbed the empty bag and threw it at Jinwoo's feet. "Keep your trash." The 5 groks laughed, turning away. They swaggered off, already forgetting the incident, looking for their next amusement. The mess hall slowly returned to its normal noise. Other cadets looked away, relieved it was not them. Sumi was furious. Jin-woo, we have to report them. That was your private things. Jin-woo stood up. He moved slowly. First, he picked up the bag. Then he walked to the table. He carefully gathered his items. He picked up the notebook from the floor and smoothed its pages. He picked up the polished cylinder and wiped it clean on his sleeve. Last, he picked up the photograph. He looked at it for a long moment. He used his thumb to wipe a smudge from the corner. He placed everything back into the metal case with great care. He closed the lid. It sealed with a soft hiss. He put the case into his bag. Sumi was waiting for an answer. Well, the command office is open now. Jin-woo slung the bag over his shoulder. He looked at his friend. His face was calm again, like a still pool of water. No, he said. Reporting would do nothing. They would get a warning, a note in their file. They would not understand. So, you just let them do that? Sumi asked, frustrated. Jin-woo looked toward the door where the Groks had left. His eyes were dark and steady. They touched what they did not understand, he said. Now they must learn. He walked out of the mess hall, his bag secure on his shoulder. Sumi watched him go, a sudden cold feeling in her stomach. She had known Jin-woo for months. She knew he was disciplined and quiet. But in that moment, he did not look like a victim. He looked like a problem waiting to happen. And the problem was now walking calmly down the corridor, planning its next move.